One of the world's largest historical earthquakes, a destructive tsunami, tens of thousands of aftershocks, and now Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula has a new volcanic eruption, which, in my opinion, is quite likely to progress into a major volcanic eruption. All of this occurred within the same 7-day time span. Unlike the eruption at Klyuchevskoye, which had been ongoing for 3.5 months and merely intensified due to the offshore magnitude 8.8 earthquake on July 30th, the volcano we are discussing today had shown no signs of life for more than 500 years until that major earthquake triggered secondary activity at it, soon causing its first historical eruption to begin earlier today. What I'm referring to is a vast caldera complex volcano known as Krasheninnikov, situated 200 kilometers north-northeast of the city of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. This volcano has a history of both very large explosive eruptions, including the one that formed its massive caldera 42,485 years ago, but also highly voluminous flank eruptions that can travel up to 15 kilometers away from a source vent, cover tens of square kilometers, and burn wide swaths of thick forest. While not all or even most eruptions from Krasheninnikov fall into either of these two categories, the potential does exist, and I'd like to make an argument that we might be witnessing the onset of a truly major flank eruption. Eruptive activity started at 4:50 a.m. local time on August 3rd, with explosive activity from the northern of its two main cones quickly sending large volumes of ash to an altitude of 6,096 meters or 20,000 feet. But as continuous ash emissions were ongoing, magma was moving underground, slowly advancing in a growing dike to the northwest. Then, 90 minutes later, fresh molten rock emerged 1,700 meters to the northwest, vaporizing surface glaciers and snow, creating explosions, and giving off a billowing white eruption plume. The dike which formed unusually went to the north-northwest, where essentially no vents had formed beforehand. However, just by looking at the overall nature of Krasheninnikov, two calderas with two stratocones, vast lava fields to the north and south, and dozens of maar and volcanic craters, we can see that this eruption is trending towards a potentially larger flank eruption. This might even generate additional craters and fissures further in the same orientation to the northwest. If this were to occur, we could even see a few cinder cones pop up, feeding basalt to andesite lava flows that cover an area of as much as 5 to 10 square kilometers. However, that is speculative. We need to see how the eruption actually develops, although I am personally expecting more fissure vents to pop up. I do not yet think the energy or situation exists to create a highly explosive eruption quite yet, although this could change if the growing lava dome or viscous lava flow in its northern crater becomes thick enough to clog the erupting vent there. As you might have guessed, it is quite different to watch a volcano erupt that you have only studied past eruptions of that took place hundreds and thousands of years ago. A lot could be learned in the upcoming days, weeks, or even months about this complex. Of course, this eruption could be some brief VEI2 moderately explosive eruption, or if we go to what I deem to be the largest eruption seemingly plausible, we could get a smaller version of Tolbochik's 1975 eruption. What I am trying to say is that this eruption, despite the fact that literally no one lives nearby, should be quite fascinating to watch. However, I suggest that no one goes within 10 kilometers of any erupting vent at this time. And yes, it is very rare for a volcano to actually be triggered to erupt after a major earthquake. And yet, changes have already been seen at 6 volcanoes, including fresh episodes of uplift, and if we look at what happened after the last Megathrust quake to strike Kamchatka in 1952, we see the same thing happen. While prior megathrust earthquakes in Sumatra in 2004, Chile in 2010, and Japan in 2011 did not trigger a single volcanic eruption, the 1952 megathrust in Kamchatka actually triggered 3 eruptions, and the latest megathrust in the same area has already triggered 1. However, for this to have happened, a volcano had to have already been primed and pretty close to erupting in the first place. In essence, an eruption would have probably occurred anyways in the next decade had this magnitude 8.8 quake not struck. Stay tuned for more updates. As a final note, I would like to thank my new patron John Adler for supporting my work.